Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. I was a little confused about where it said that the purpose of this week's discussion was marketing and promotion, as when I read through the chapters, it was all about developing character and beats and things like that. So I'm going to talk about what we read in chapters 5 through 7. Because that's what we read. So I love building characters with my actors. With middle schoolers, it's sometimes really hard. They tend to go from 0 to 60 within like 1 second. So having them back up, like I said in the first chapter, and really build on the character so that the play doesn't fall flat, right? So that not everything is revealed right at the very beginning of the play. Is really, really important. I feel like it can get very stagnant if you just come out guns a-blazing. And sometimes our middle schoolers are just so gung-ho about it that they do that. I also really appreciated in chapter 5 about the utilitarian characters, because they are so important. And, you know, whenever one of my students gets like, a character that they don't really want. Let's say it's the butler, or let's say it is prostitute number 1 in Les Mis, or whatever, role that they really were hoping that they wouldn't get. I always say to them, your role has a really important purpose, and if it wasn't for you, then we couldn't move the story forward. So trying to help them find that is really important for me, and I found that the author really addressed that, talking about the importance of that character and how the actors can really learn about timing and about how to really listen to other characters on stage. I thought that was really useful as well. And then in chapter 6, I really liked the universality and the specificity. So looking at the universal areas of the show, but then making it very specific, I felt was really helpful for me. And they made reference to changing the wording in something and how that really shifted. I think it was Catrone who remembered his mistake in focusing too much on the universal and how it affected Steinbeck's message in The Moon is Down. And that happened to me actually directing The Sound of Music. It put upon me by administration that I needed to change the word Nazi to German soldiers. And I fought them tooth and nail against it. And I said, we need to be specific here. We can't just talk about universalities. Like, yes, they are German soldiers. Yes, that is true. They are from Germany. But we can even actually extend past that, because there were soldiers from all different regions around Germany that also were Nazis. And we have to kind of maintain that level of specificity. It was very important to the author, and it's important to me as a Jewish American that we keep that in there, because that is a major plot point of the play. So I definitely appreciated that the script should remain the same, especially when it's portraying such a powerful message. And then I think really this chapter brought home to me how much we really have to reread our scripts. And I'm guilty of 2 or 3 reads and then, okay, I know what I'm doing. And I think it's really picking it apart that can be super helpful, and reading it yet again to glean more information out of that. So I really appreciated chapter 6. And then in chapter 7, separating everything out into beats and units, I found fascinating as well. I definitely do this, but I could do it more. I think as far as really plotting out the different beats and measures and units in there. And then the diction, I had to laugh so hard about the diction, because people confuse it with pronunciation and things like that. But we did talk about pronouncing different words. And when I directed Fiddler on the Roof, it was probably one of the funniest audition processes I've ever been through, because the kids just butchered the words. Thankfully, I'm Jewish, and I speak Hebrew, so I could give them that background and what the words were and actually what they meant, which was super helpful. But it just speaks to the importance of doing that research and doing that due diligence about the language and about the history of the author and really what their intentions are. And it really drove home to me that I need to stop being the dramaturge and let some of my students be dramaturges, and let them go through that process of researching the language and other plays written by the same playwright, and really going into that process of figuring out what underlies a lot of the intention in this play. And that brings us to the subtext too, and really knowing that very strong actors will be able to deliver a line with all of the subtext underneath it. And I do a fun activity with my 8th graders where we work on this, where we say different lines with way different meanings, right? So saying, hi, how are you? Like you're saying it to your long lost best friend, and then, hi, how are you? With you're cautious or you're scared or you're nervous, or hi, how are you? You don't like this person at all. So I think it's really helpful to do some of those exercises and activities to really work on the subtext, because that's what makes things really interesting. So I again really like these 3 chapters and bookmark them for future reference. I hope everybody has a great weekend.